welcome to our legal classes. This is Nishan GB. Today me and my father are going to cover nationalization of banks.
We are going to cover why nationalization, the process of nationalization, the compensation for nationalization. We are also going to discuss the achievements from nationalization of banks, and there are certain demerits or the criticisms against nationalization. We are going to cover all of them. Why to waste time? Let's get into the first slide.
First of all, let's try understand why nationalization of banks. Papa, can you please explain?
I have listed as many as 17 reasons answering for why nationalization of banks. First of all, we need to understand that India is a socialistic state. We are not a capitalist country. That is been very clearly mentioned in the preamble of the Constitution as well as in the DPSP of Indian Constitution. Now, when we are socialistic state, we need to ensure that the economy is developed throughout the state. The money should not concentrate with any few people. Now, if the nationalization of banks was not done, then the money would have concentrated in city with very few people or in certain urban areas. Now, the medium scale industries or small scale industries, and more than them, the agricultural or any rural development wouldn't have happened if the nationalization of banks was not done. Likewise, all the banks would have been concentrated only in the city or urban area and would have given money to the people who are already rich. When I say giving money, that is lending money only to the rich people. Now, what about the small scale sectors? What about the people who want to do self-employment? What about the rural economy? So that was the biggest concern we always had, and that is why there was a clear requirement for nationalization of banks. That is the nutshell of this entire slide. Now I will just read out what are the requirements for nationalization of banks in India. The reasons are for the better management of public money, and the nationalization of banks were done in even capitalist countries. So we also took the same path, and then preventing concentration of economic power with private banks was also one of the reasons, and directing the funds to priority sector was one another objective, and to avoid concentration of wealth was essential because we are socialistic state. As I have already told, it is being mentioned in the preamble of Indian Constitution as well as directive principles of state policy. The sixth reason was by extending the banking facility to the rural areas, there was opportunity for greater mobilization of funds, because now even the rural economy will start playing by putting deposits in the bank, and that was a greater opportunity that the government has seen. Likewise, the nationalization of banks would have supported the agriculture, neglected and weaker section of the society, and rural development via support to agriculture and small scale industries as well as self-employment was also one of the objective. And the ninth objective is very important, which by doing nationalization of banks, the control of banks gone to Reserve Bank of India, which is one of the important objective. And then the distributed development was possible by nationalization of banks because there was all good opportunity to support the medium scale industries, small scale industries, the rural areas, etc. The 11th reason was to bring the banking system under a very clear legal frame and to have better social control. And then stability in the banking structure was possible by nationalizing it, and to pass the benefit to the customers, and for the better implementation of 5 years plan so that there was uniform national development was a possible objective, and to improve the conditions of the staffs who are working in the banking sector, and to introduce new schemes via banks, and then the overall development of economy. These are the major reasons that why we needed nationalization of banks.
Papa, that was very clear. Now can you please explain the process followed?
Here is the story of process followed. Now I am not going to explain anything out of this slide. the story is very clear. We started on 19th July 1969. On that day, the President of India promulgated an ordinance under the Article 123(1) of the Indian Constitution. The ordinance was the Banking Companies Ordinance 1969, or the Banking Companies Acquisition and Transfer of Undertakings Ordinance under 1969. Now, as per this ordinance, on 19th July 1969, 14 banks with more than rupees 50 crores of deposit were got nationalized. So far so good, but there was an issue during the implementation of the same, because there was a case came against this ordinance which is known as RC Cooper versus Union of India, and this case is famously known as Bank Nationalization case. This is one of the very important case as far as law students are concerned, and in my playlist I have an independent video on bank nationalization case. Interestingly, the judgment went against the ordinance of President of India at the ratio of 10:1 in the 11 bench judge. Now the government was not happy. It got majority both in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha in the immediate election, and immediately after the election it did two work. The first one is it passed an act by the name of Banking Companies Acquisition and Transfer of Undertaking Act 1970, as well as it also brought 25th Amendment to the Indian Constitution. The management of such nationalized bank were brought under section 7 and 8 of the Banking Companies Acquisition and Transfer of Undertaking Act 1970, and few of the important items which are available under section 7 and 8 were: the head office of the banks will remain same which was earlier when it was not nationalized, and the banks will be managed by the board of directors, and the remuneration of the board of directors will remain same, and the chairman of pre-nationalized bank to manage the board of directors, and the policies will be realigned to the public interest, and the banks will be governed under Reserve Bank of India. These were the few important aspects which were brought under section 7 and 8 of the Banking Companies Acquisition and Transfer of Undertaking Act 1970.
Papa, so far so good. Now tell us when exactly all this happened.
The nationalization of banks in India happened two times till the year 2020. Now the first lot happened on 19th July 1969 and the second lot happened on 15th April 1980. The 19th July 1969, there were 14 banks got nationalized which had more than 50 crores of deposit with them, and while nationalizing, the parties got adequate compensation, and the amount of compensation is also given in the table. Now, which were the 14 banks? The Allahabad Bank, which is now merged with Indian Bank, the Bank of Baroda, the Bank of India, Bank of Maharashtra, Central Bank of India, Canara Bank, Dena Bank, which is now merged with Bank of Baroda, Indian Bank, Indian Overseas Bank, Punjab National Bank, Syndicate Bank, which is now merged with Canara Bank, United Commercial Bank, Union Bank of India, and United Bank of India, which is now merged with Punjab National Bank. Now let's move to the second lot. The second lot, as I have already told, happened on 15th April 1980, and the major difference here was in the earlier lot, it was considered whoever has minimum of 50 crores as deposit with them, whereas in the second lot, that is on 15th April 1980, whoever had minimum deposit of 200 crores, they were being got nationalized. Now, which are the bank? The Andhra Bank, Corporation Bank, Oriental Bank of Commerce, New Bank of India, Vijaya Bank, and Punjab and Sindh Bank. One additional information you should always remember is State Bank of India is not a nationalized bank but a public sector bank. It draws its power from State Bank of India Act 1955, and whichever associate banks are there with State Bank are also not nationalized bank because they are not coming under Banking Companies Act in 1969 or 1980. However, as of today, there are no associate banks to SBI because all of them are got merged with SBI.
Papa, my last question. What are the goods and bads of the entire process?
So that question brings to the last part of this presentation, where we are going to discuss the achievements of nationalization of banks and then the demerits or the criticisms against the nationalization of banks. Let us first try understand what are the achievements of nationalization of banks. Now, because of the bank nationalization, the banking sector reached the rural India. That was the first and foremost achievement. The banking sector, by coming to the rural India, started supporting to the agricultural, small scale as well as rural employments. It also helped in speedy transfer of funds. That was one another achievement, because if somebody was there in city or urban area, they could have sent money to even the rural people. That became possible because of the branch bankings, and there were quick development in the banking sector in the form of the number of branches which got increased because of nationalization of banks. And while the branches came, they also brought jobs to the rural youth, which is the fifth achievement. And then it also reduced the risk of concentration of wealth with only city or urban area. It started distribution of wealth to the entire nation. When I am saying it started distributing the wealth to the entire nation, the banks didn't give directly, but lot of government schemes came in and they helped to rural development also. Then the seventh achievement is it is the implementation of various government schemes. I just told about government schemes. This became possible because of banking sector which was available in rural areas also. And then the eighth achievement is it established very good networking between the city, town and the rural areas, and the collection of deposit increased very efficiently, and it changed the mode of saving of rural areas, because earlier people would have kept their money in the suitcases, but now they got bank. Now they could have keep the money in the bank. It increased the safety of their money also. And the 10th achievement is by banks coming into rural areas, it also brought the habit of saving among the people. And as I already told, the safety of the rural people's money was also ensured, because otherwise earlier they would have kept all their money, gold, etc. in the home where there was hardly any safety. Now the safety was increased. And finally, banks not only for rich, it also for poor, because of the nationalization of banks. Because earlier the banks were only lending money to the able people or whoever had the capacity to repay, they got the money, whereas here the entire game was changed by making the banks into nationalization. That was all about achievements, but remember, it is not just about achievements. There were certain demerits or criticisms against the nationalization of banks, and the first one is always about the efficiency. Earlier there were lot of efficiency, but making them nationalized, the efficiency has gone. And the second one is corruption has entered the banking system. The third and the main criticism is the nationalization of banks was not done with the intention of building a socialistic state, but it was a politically intended activity. That is the biggest criticism that we hear as far as nationalization of banks are concerned. And it also reduced the prestige of India against the other countries of the world. And the favoritism also started with the nationalization of banks, and customer service was not given so much importance. Earlier it was very important, but now it lost its place, and carelessness also entered into banking system, and the decision making was not efficient as earlier. These are the few important demerits or the criticisms that we hear against the nationalization of banks.
Hope you guys got sufficient content. Look at that cub. I'm scared. I'm leaving the class. You guys better take care.